Hi, everyone. Your host, Amanda here. Before we dive into today's episode, I'm excited to let you know that my recent TEDx talk on the future of work is now live. I tackle all the ways that work is broken and how, if we let them, Gen Z can help us fix it. Check out the show notes of this episode for a link to watch the full talk. Welcome to Season 7 of Design Nerds Anonymous, the podcast that sparks curiosity at the intersection of business and design. I'm your host, Amanda Schneider. This season, we're looking beyond our industry, exploring bold strategies from unexpected places to rethink how we engage and connect. But today, we're getting real about what's changed within this industry and what needs to change when it comes to rep-designer relationships. If you're a rep, you've felt the shift. The long lunches, the drop-ins, the organic relationship building is happening less and less. And if you're a designer, maybe you haven't even noticed, because between deadlines, billable hours, and client demands, connecting with reps just isn't the priority it used to be. But here's the thing, these relationships still matter. Before the pandemic, ThinkLab data suggests that reps spent around 80% of their time face-to-face with designers. Today, it's less than half. And while 89% of Gen Z designers say relationships within their company are important, only 59% of them say industry relationships matter at all. Some firms are even reporting that the only time designers can meet with reps is on their personal time, making those connections feel like an afterthought. So what happens if these relationships fade? Designers lose a key resource, someone who can help them find the right products faster, navigate project challenges, and stay ahead of industry shifts. And reps? They're being forced to redefine their role, proving their value in new ways to remain indispensable. This is exactly what we're going to dive into today. I had the privilege of being joined by 3 wildly successful reps in this industry, each from different regions, representing different product lines, but all facing the same challenge, reframing how they connect with designers in this increasingly digital era. First, we'll meet Ashley Delano, a multi-line furniture rep in Chicago, who has been super creative about new ways to build trust and engagement. We'll also meet my longtime friend, April Ibarra, a Technion mainline furniture rep in Orange County, seeing firsthand how designers' expectations are shifting. And, if I may add, responding in wickedly smart ways. Finally, we'll meet Julia Friedman, a Mannington flooring rep in Washington, D.C., who is, with every action she takes, redefining what it means to be an invaluable partner. Together, we'll unpack what's really behind this shift, the biggest challenge to both reps and designers today, and the strategies that are making an impact. Because here's the bottom line. The brands and reps that win in 2025, they won't just push products. They'll save designers time and help make their lives easier. And designers, the ones who prioritize the right relationships, will have a competitive advantage that others don't. So whether you're a rep trying to stay indispensable or a designer trying to work smarter, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. So let's meet our panelists. We're just getting started. A quick pause for this short break, and we'll be right back.
NeoCon 2025 is June 9th through the 11th at the Mart in Chicago, and we have a great show in store. I'm Byron Morton, Vice President and Co-Head of Leasing at the Mart. Our programming, presented in partnership with AIA Chicago, ASID, BIFMA, IIDA, Fast Company, and Crane Chicago Business, will highlight keynotes, special features, and workshops covering inclusive design, neurodiversity, and return to the office, in addition to over 50 CEUs offered live or online. Special features and activations will include NeoCon talks in the 7th floor exhibit hall. Paved States, a curated pop-up celebrating emerging design talent, a new experiential program in conjunction with the Design Museum of Chicago called Inside Design. IIDA's Revel in Design celebration and their annual meeting, a new Art on the Mart Neocon collaboration in partnership with Perkins and Will, the Neocon Podcast Studio, presented by Sandow's Surround Network, Interior Design's Design Scene Space, and the Metropolis Sustainability Lab on 11th, the Neocon Park and Cafe Space on the South Drive, and back for its third year, the first Neocon program. I can't wait to welcome you and over 50,000 industry professionals to see thousands of new products from hundreds of industry-leading manufacturers, June 9th through the 11th, only at the Mart in Chicago.
All right, now let's pick up where we left off.
I'm Julia Friedman with Mannington. I'm a licensed designer, but I've been with Mannington for almost 16 years. So I have the background of doing both design, but also having the business side of it. And I know that's really where Amanda came from and joining the two. So I love being able to think about how design meets sales. And that is sort of how I came to Mannington, and the technical aspects of finishes, getting down and dirty and geeky, and having a favorite transition strip is just something that I pride myself in. And because the details matter, the devils are in the details.
Wonderful. And what would be your one word to describe your biggest selling challenge today?
FaceTime. It's all about FaceTime and, the lack of.
A great ThinkLab stat says that pre-pandemic, the average rep spent 70 to 80% of their time face-to-face, breathing the same air synchronously with their clients. Today, that number is less than half. And depending on the region, we say 40 to 50%. But we're going to dive into that a little bit more. April, you want to go next?
I'm April Ibarra, and I'm the Business Development Director for Technion. Been in the industry 27 years. I like the word time. That's true. But I'll also use saturation, meaning people are overwhelmed with so much stuff. Obviously, I have long-standing relationships, but some of the newer designers and people coming in, people are just overwhelmed with a lot on their plate. So how do we stand out? And what do we do to build those relationships? So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Great. And Ashley.
I'm Ashley Delano with Level Reps. 20th year in the industry, an interior designer by background, coming from Chicago, born and raised. Also similar to Julia, having a balance of design and business background. I grew up in a family pizza business. What that allowed me to do at the young age of 14 is understand customer service. And that's something that's driven me through my 20 years, transitioning over to a rep role and joining an independent rep team for about 3.5 years now. I was going to say impact. What's been very obvious along the way is those meaningful connections. The constant struggle is making that impactful, meaningful connection in how the evolution of what we do in the service level has changed.
Ooh, okay. So let's dive into that. We have our 3 words, which are impact, FaceTime, and saturation. I really want to dive into what has changed. I think you guys are the bold few taking the stage here, the podcast stage, to really talk about realistically where reps are struggling. And our hope is that the design side of our audience listens to understand what it's like in your world today. And also, I think there's going to be some other of your fellow reps in this industry, furniture, flooring, all kinds of other categories across the country that are going to be listening into this for a little bit of group therapy. As you talk about impact, it sounds like it's harder than ever to make impact today. What has changed?
What's changed is the days of going into design firms consistently are not there anymore. So while you had that opportunity to pop in and obviously even schedule appointments, but for someone that's newer in the industry, I think that can be very difficult because you have to find time to try to target the certain decision makers or designers, specifiers within those firms. And it's difficult now because it's changed and so many people are in the office inconsistently.
It is difficult. I agree with that. I have seen a shift in how we are connecting with our customers, definitely since the pandemic too. Once designers wanted to go out for a beautiful dinner and spend their evening, and priorities have changed. They want to have more of a work-life balance and still be provided that level of connection with the reps and also that level of learning about the products and that level of service. So what I've seen shift now is that we're really focusing on more smaller connections, more one-on-one. All of us reps were in a sales-oriented role, but we have different backgrounds. Our ultimate goal, I feel when I talk to other reps, is that we come from a helpful point of view, but we need to understand how we can be helpful. Though it's a sales role, it's coming from a level of how do we help support you? Thinking back in the design realm, you want to make beautiful things. You want to solve a problem. As a rep, we have a very small part of solving that problem, of being helpful to that designer in whatever aspect we're playing. But we need to understand what that is. And so by having a lot of these smaller conversations, I've actually found as an opportunity right now because I've gotten to know people in a more meaningful way from understanding their current drivers. We still do presentations. It's definitely not what it used to be. But I actually am enjoying that because it feels like we're able to get a deeper connection and understand what's next.
Ashley, I think that's exactly it. I have shifted from being a friendly helper, let me help you on this project, more toward truly developing myself to be more of a mentor. I've learned to be helpful in this sort of way, meeting with my peers to say, hey, what is the younger generation struggling with? And then I have put together these small mentor groups, and it's very confidential. So if, a mid-level or an upper level designer says, hey, this is something that we are having issues with, whether it's proper behavior or the way one dresses or the way that we approach problems, whatever it is, I try to take notes on these topics and get together with these smaller groups of, typically they tend to be young women, and talk about these things, having nothing to do with sales. All of a sudden, you've become a resource for them in business. And then it can be something as small as, hey, this is typical etiquette, or this is how we select finishes. But it has moved on to, hey, Julia, I really want a promotion. How do I go about that? And I have helped guide some of these younger designers to say, hey, have you thought about setting up a time with your superior? Have you asked them what you need to do? Those sort of guiding principles of helping in a different capacity than just let me help you on that project has been paramount for us. And what I love about it is that they share with one another. So now not only am I a resource as a rep to this mentee, but they become better resources to their peers. And we're all strengthening our skills and our abilities. So that's a nice way to touch exactly what Ashley was saying, where we are getting a bit more intimate and helping in a way that's extremely different than where we were previously.
Julie, if I can build on that, a lot of times the younger designers don't understand what a rep is, what we do, how do we fit in the process. And so those have been really insightful conversations. And all of a sudden the light bulb goes, oh, I do need you. Because I'm thinking back to when I was a younger designer, I really didn't understand that. And I wish that I had someone who said, hey, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, do you know what my role is? How can we work together? How can we be partners? Or we're in this together. All of a sudden, it's like, it just changes the whole perception of the conversations.
I always say you cannot design in a vacuum. You need other designers, but you're not supposed to. And we can join it and be part of the process. And I always tell them, I love an invitation. Invite me in, invite me to the party, because my voice is different than yours. And I could be the easy button for you.
We're taking a break for a quick moment, but don't go too far.
Deep Green is a podcast about how buildings can be designed to make our world a better place. In each episode, we tackle climate change, health crises, economic inequality, and much more, all through the lens of architecture and interior design. I'm Avi Rajagopal, the host of Deep Green and the editor-in-chief of Metropolis, a magazine about how architecture and design shape our future. You can listen to episodes of Deep Green on surroundpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Design Nerds Anonymous, where we rethink the way decisions get made. Ashley, I want to come back to an interesting stat from ThinkLab research. We just did a bunch of Gen Z research. And the interesting thing about the way that we did that was we looked across all generations. So it was about Gen Z really understanding how their perceptions differ, but looking at how that was shifting across 4 different generations that are in the workplace today. One of the interesting stats said that 85% of A&D say that their relationships with their company are important, but only 61% say relationships within the industry are important. And we saw a pretty clear decline as those generations got younger. So I want you to speak to the design part of our audience that's listening. What does a rep do? How do you answer that question when you get it? What does a rep do? And why are building those relationships important?
In essence, I always say that I'm here to inspire in the front end, be your advocate and resource throughout the process. And then at the end of the day, see that final solution, connecting from beginning and giving that inspiration, being able to be a trusted advisor throughout and then see it through. As much as you plan, you're going to measure twice, cut once. It's that type of mentality that when I think about a lot of times, having a coach or advocate within a firm to say you should know these other designers, they need your resource, they need your knowledge for XYZ. That has been really an excellent way to get to know others.
I want to come to you, April, because I want to build on what Julia was talking about, where she was talking about shifting from helper to mentor. And especially being a group of women on this call, we know that interior designers do tend to be women. Recent stats that we pulled together here is 87.5% of design students are female. 85% of the design side of the industry are female. But when you get to the top ranks of management, only 40% are female. So we're seeing a huge drop off. April, I want you to speak to that mentorship, not only to females, but where can reps step in to become that resource to maybe help slow some of that decline?
Luckily, I've been in the industry a long time, so I have high-level relationships with a lot of the principals within the firms. So what I'll do is I'll actually sit with them and ask them for some target people within their firm and how I can help them. And I get a good idea on the front end from them on how I can be a mentor and what that looks like.
Amanda, you had mentioned those statistics that women sort of trail off, and it is not a secret. Women become mothers, they have babies. And I think that tends to be the number one area in which women's careers falter and tend to fade. I meet with many new young moms in this career. It's a tough challenge, especially when there's dual income families and also daycare. The cost of daycare is a fortune. Sometimes it's the same cost as the salary that a designer brings in. So truly, that is the pivotal point in time where a woman's career, whether it's in design or otherwise, tapers. And I really try to connect with my designers at this point. Having young children myself, I saw the change that it occurred in those few years of my life. I have all these different groups of mentor, and my favorite one these days, really, it's the new mom crew. Truthfully, every single time that we meet, often even when we email, I say to them, the working mother is unnatural. And I don't mean that in that we can't do it. I just want them to be empowered to understand that every single day that you leave your children behind to go do something that you deeply care about, that you're deeply making change in our world for, that it's worth it. And that because it is unnatural, you are superwoman that day. And it's these tiny little things, these ways that we connect with each other. It's kind of like our greeting, the working mother's unnatural, go get it. And really connecting with where these women are struggling the most, just to feel supported. And it doesn't have to be just children, whether you have a new dog or you're going through a death in the family. These things really impact women in our careers. And having the support and being able to talk about these somewhat sticky situations, or maybe something that borderline's not professional, but feeling comfortable about talking about it with your professional colleagues makes all the difference for feeling supported. And with support comes friendship, and with friendship comes business.
I'm curious about those statistics because I feel like now more than ever, I'm seeing a lot of women that are having kids. And obviously I have had 3 kids through this industry, but the men are taking paternity leave. So I feel like that statistic might shift a little bit because I'm feeling that men, at least from the ones I'm seeing here and even in my market, there's a lot of design principals who are women, men being involved as fathers.
I would agree with that. If you haven't listened to my recent TEDx talk, I would encourage all of our listeners to take a listen to that because it's really connecting how what Gen Z is asking for is not unlike what I needed when I was having my 3 kids through this industry. And I think we are going to see more of that, April, to your point, from fathers. And Ashley, I want you to speak to this because Ashley and her husband have really been doing a lot to build this working parents initiative. It's not just about women. It is about working parents. But again, the same benefits that benefit moms benefit dads, the same benefits that benefit dads or benefit anyone with a hobby or a dog or anything else. So Ashley, talk a little bit about what you and Scott.
Yeah, that's right on. What's good for parents is good for everyone. Julie, I really resonated with what you said about the new moms connection and understanding that you're not alone. We're having similar conversations here in Chicago. What Scott and I really are trying to target here is keeping people in our industry. You shouldn't feel that you're not supported. We have statistically seen a shortage of the A&D community. There's demand, and the statistics are we're not keeping the talent, essentially. We're even talking, I'll say day to day, younger generation. They don't know the questions to ask, perhaps, when they're joining an organization. You may not be thinking about having a family for 5 more years, for 10 more years. So what we're trying to do is really help uplift the next generation of the design, the entire community, to give them resources and tools that allow those conversations to happen, both for the employee and the employer, because we are navigating essentially a new era right now. Dads do want to be involved. There are an abundance of reasons that flexibility is important. So diving into all of those areas. So I could go on for a very long time about it, but high levels, we want to protect this industry that we're so passionate about.
Talk a little bit about that 26-year-old designer. And I love how you guys connected this working parent topic to these are the questions that maybe that 26-year-old should be asking, even if you don't have kids yet, thinking about next life stages. But one of the quotes from our private rep focus group was, to get on the spec today, you have to get through the 26-year-old designer. If you can't get through that gate, it doesn't matter who the next gate is. And I think this is really interesting. We just had our official kickoff of ThinkLab's 2025 Gen Z cohort, which is basically a panel of Gen Zers to help solve some of the challenges that we're talking about in this episode, this widening gap between reps that tend to live in maybe an analog first mindset with this really digitally native generation. And as we had this conversation, we asked them for either a wish list, what are the best things the best reps are doing, or what we're calling an ick list. What gives you the ick when reps do X, Y, and Z? And one thing that came up loud and clear is we really want relationships with this people. We don't want it to feel so transactional. Yet I would guess most reps out there listening to this are like, we want to build relationships with you. But how do we do that today with less FaceTime than ever? And I think, Ashley, even of what you brought up earlier, that now you're having all of these small group one-on-one settings, which is great. But you still have the same amount of time in your week, especially as a working mom. You want to have the most impact that you can with that time. So I'm curious, how are we able to scale our time? How are we building these relationships different today? Because it just doesn't feel the same to a lot of us.
I'll start. I am taking a big shift. Obviously, the product is important, but at the end of the day, it is about the relationship and the partnership with that person. So I do a lot of focus on health and wellness. Everybody can go to a lunch. Everybody can go to a cocktail hour. Honestly, now my idea of a great time is even hitting a yoga class. I do a lot of things that people would really want to do that are a little bit not what your typical events would be, and making them smaller groups to really get to know that person. And Julia, even on your point, I have a lot of friends that I actually will even get together as families, because when you start to know their families, you're really creating a bond. So there's a lot of things that I also do, even where they can bring their children. I can give you examples of things we've done. We do like a step challenge where we get teams together and we make these teams with a broker, a project manager, a designer, a principal. So we make sure that everybody's having the interaction in the industry amongst one another. And we do it for a 3-month period. And we have really cool juice drop-offs or a walk from peer to peer and things like that that are more health focused. It helps them get their steps in as well. And when you help someone get healthy, they never forget it.
We want to be helpful, but that starts with listening, right? We want to tell our story. We're so excited to share the solution we have for you. But listening, what's going on, like you said, with their family, their personal life, and making that connection. My best friends in the industry started off as either a coworker or customers. What other industry can say that? What a special opportunity we have. I tell other people about what I do in other industries, and they don't have that. The lovely events that we have, or the dinners, or unique things we're putting on, that is really special. And I think there are a number of people, even younger designers, that are seeing that. I had a designer recently who told her mom about what we did together. We explored somewhere new in Chicago, and the parents were like, we never got to do that when we were 25 going into banking, and all of a sudden she's like, oh yeah, this is really special. I should take advantage and I appreciate it. So there's little things that come up like that quite often.
I think that one of the things that I used to struggle with, because, you try to listen, you try to be so much for them. That people love to feel supported. But also it's really important that we, on the flip side of that, is that we give some of ourselves as well. And I know the word authentic is often overused, but really showing love in whatever language is your language. A funny little anecdote, like I have gotten very into antiquing and thrifting. And for holiday gifts, I said, I'm not doing the traditional things anymore. I'm not bringing chocolates. I'm not going to drop off boxes of popcorn or whatever it is. I went out for the past 6 months and bought silver-plated 1920s teak punch cups. And I turned them into really cool succulents and just gave a little bit of gift of myself, which was, I made this. I see you as a creative. I mean, what other industry can we do a crafternoon that's so loved and appreciated? And it doesn't have to be that, but my clients know that that's something that I treasure and now they treasure, something that's really authentic and genuine. And we have to think about the way that we give gifts and the way that we give information. Giving of yourself and listening of others that's the recipe for a true connection.
I love that you're saying that. And I actually tying both of those things back in. I keep notes in my phone for each individual person I meet with, their family members' names, their birthdays. I remember a lot of things. At the end of the day, it's going back to that human connection. Julia, I created a holiday family photo day in November because I was noticing a lot of the other reps are coming in. They drop off stuff. So I have their families come. They get a 1-hour time frame. I get to meet their families. It's something they have to get done. So it's thinking of creative things that help them that they would want to do. But I just love that you're tying all this back to really the human connection. And I'll take a step back where we used to come in and show, okay, here's our portfolio of products. I'm going in and meeting and saying, how can we help you? What are the resources? What websites do you get on? Because I know when a designer's looking for something, they either need it right then, they need it for a presentation tomorrow, and it's about who's going to respond to them the quickest as well. So I don't go in even with, here we are, here's Technion and all this stuff. I'm more, how do you work? What kind of projects are you working on? And even if it's 15 minutes, it's connecting with that person and really finding out what's important to them.
Well said. So I want to take us in a little bit of the opposite direction, if you will. And this is because ThinkLab has the industry's first ever persona study. And we divided the industry into 5 different personas across a range of what we call phygital eagerness. On one end of the spectrum is rep first, people that really dive deep with their reps and they know the value of reps and they want to go to the rep first. At the other end is what we're calling the digital first persona. They are digital first, but not digital only. They actually expect the fastest response time of reps when they're working with reps, but they do want to start online with tools. And so this is where I'd love to dive into some of the tools that maybe your brands are giving you. Another thing we hear from reps all the time is, I can be the rep that I was 2019, out and about, kissing babies, shaking hands, all of the things. I can be the rep that I was in 2021, sitting behind my computer, wickedly responsive. I can't be both of those. So as I think about these 5 personas, as I think about that challenge of this duality of reps and what's expected in terms of responsiveness for them, and as I think about that impact and smaller group, like y'all have limited time. Are there any digital tools? Are there any tools from your marketing team that they have developed recently that are helping to scale your time? Because I love all these personal touches. We should never, ever stop that. We should find ways to keep the human in this. But as we look at the other end of that spectrum, what's working? What do you need that you don't have?
I can tell you what we have that's working. We have a program called Tackboard, and I can just essentially clip swatches from our website directly onto this board. And it is really a tool that was designed for designers to be playing around with. They don't need that now. They're at their offices. So what I've sort of adopted them as my way of communicating with designers. So I not only make different palettes, new products come out. So here's your warm palette, here's a cool palette. So if somebody says what's new, you get a warm and a cool, and I can digitally send these along. Additionally, I have palettes that are sorted by price point. So if somebody says, hey, Julia, I need a mid-30s textural solid, I have a whole page of mid-30s already done, as opposed to here's a link, hyperlink, here's a link, hyperlink. It's cleaner, it's faster. I just pull from something that already exists. Sure, when we have a new product, I have to add and update. That's my job. But it's a quick, here you go. And the work is already done. It's a stamp and repeat. And it's curated by me. So I know what I'm sending, at least I think is decent, right? It's one thing to have the marketing department do it. It's another thing if you yourself can do it. So it's a wonderful tool that I now have designers come to me and say, I need a tack board, and they know I'll do it for them. I don't want them to be starting digitally. I want them to tell me exactly what they need and me give them something visual and quickly.
I'm representing an independent rep group, so I'm going to think of, we're really small business, and so that we're limited in some of those resources. One thing that we're investigating right now, we're in the middle of launching, is a tool that kind of combines a lot of those asks. So you're looking for X product, having a central resource for that. And as a small business, we've invested in a more proprietary resource. It's similar to Google Lens. It's called ID, and it allows the designer to snap an image and see what products they can find within our group to help them pull those resources together. We're trying to think about utilizing technology as a small company. Are we fully utilizing AI yet? No, not quite. Are we open to investigating in the middle of that? Absolutely. So it's nice that we can develop a tool that'll allow us to help our customers when we can only be in so many places.
I'm working for a big manufacturer, and we have product lines from walls all the way down to a poof. I am finding I'm supposed to be out in sales, and it is difficult to be responsive. And I know that if you don't respond within a certain amount of time, then maybe they're not going to put forth your products. So we are implementing some programs where we will have a dedicated person that we could actually forward those emails to get responses. Because even if someone says, I need this chair, what are the dimensions? That can be a 30-minute deal by the time you're looking it up, getting all the information, sending the email back, and it's very time consuming.
I love that. And I do think there's a lot of brands experimenting with something that is in between a field sales rep that's out and about and face-to-face and customer service that's please give me your part number and I will look and see if it's on its way. That is almost like an inside sales team, but somebody that can be that responsive rep, whether it's in a local showroom or even at, let's say, Technion headquarters or something like that, where you could call in to someone who's close to the factory that can just help get some of those things. So I think we are seeing some more experimentation there. I want us to make some predictions for 2025. Companies that get ahead in 2025 will do this one thing. What would that be?
The reps that have an understanding of providing service. We all have similar solutions, but provide the utmost service. Have awareness of the process in how you can provide value to them.
So I think the company that's going to get ahead is going to come out with whatever is the most helpful to save our clients time. Time is everything. Time is money. Time is freedom. Whether that's having a website that has digital renderings, whether it's having a sales support team that can get you that part number quickly. I don't think this is rocket science. I don't think there's going to be a new AI. I think it's really, as Ashley said, it's customer service, but the company who can relay that they are the best time saver to the client. And there's internal time saving, but also to get to that design firm and say, this is the way that we make your life easier. We get you out of the office 1 hour earlier. You get to go to the gym. You get to kiss your babies. You get to walk your dog because this specific tool gives you more time, and time is the most precious thing we have.
Well said.
There's not much to add on to that. I think the rep will be ahead. We'll still keep in mind that nothing takes away from that human connection at the end of the day. And I think that's tagging on to Julia's amazing things that she said, and Ashley as well.
Well said. Do you guys have time for one more? Something that I was asked by our 30/30 team. I'm going to be participating in a webinar to help coach our interior designs 30 under 30 designers. What are common mistakes designers make with product? What would you coach them to not do? Or what do you see them doing that you wish you could save them from themselves in some way?
Judging book by its cover. The first thing first, that yes, we are in an aesthetic industry. Getting something beautiful is important, but our job is health and safety. Our job is keeping things up to code. Our job is to create spaces that inspire. It's not just what's pretty. I have a line that's gorgeous. I also have a line that is domestically manufactured and that is sustainably forward, that there's so many layers to what makes a product an excellent product and what makes a design an excellent design. We cannot just judge what a product looks like. There's so much more. And you might not even know what you don't know. That's where reps come in. Why is this product so wonderful? Why? Yes, it's beautiful. Sure, it's the right grayish. It goes with my palette. But what can it offer my end user? How can I be a better resource to help my client? And so there's so much more. There's brains and beauty behind all these products.
For me, a lot of times we're in where designers are trying to compare different lines of the main manufacturers. And I would say don't get so into the weeds, because the days of really being able to compare apples to apples is difficult because there's so much blending of product these days that you have a high level design intent and you reach out to your experts to actually make sure that the layout is going to work. Or even when an RFP is being released, you have to give nominal dimensions. Each manufacturer can actually lend to what's best for their product line that will ultimately help the client in the overall cost. It's very difficult to be an expert in all product lines, and there's so much blending these days that I would say make sure you're connected with true partners and explain the design intent, and then let them come back with the right solution in regards to their products.
What came to mind initially is rely on your product specialists, rely on those experts. A designer is not expected to know all of that. We're all here to support you. And speaking firsthand, I learned that lesson the hard way. And I wish that I would have reached out to those experts and guided me along the way so that it did save me the time that we can't get back, but then also understand it on a very different level, because that's what these professionals are doing day in, day out. And at the end of the day, we want a happy client. We're one small piece of that project. Let us in so we can help you, and it's celebration for everybody.
So what's the biggest takeaway from today? Yes, the rep-designer relationship has changed. And while some may see this as a negative, what if that's an opportunity? What if, instead of trying to go back to the way things were, we built something better? Reps who embrace this shift aren't just selling products. They're becoming trusted advisors, strategic partners, and time savers. And designers who engage with the right reps aren't just getting product info. They're gaining industry insights, getting help solving problems, and they're also creating a network that helps them work smarter. The old way of doing things simply isn't coming back. But that's not a bad thing. The relationships that come from this next era, they have the potential to be stronger, more valuable, and more impactful than ever before. So let's keep this conversation going. Be sure to follow me, Amanda Schneider, on LinkedIn, and connect with our guests, Ashley Delano, April Ibarra, and Julia Friedman. Because they're not just adapting, they're redefining what partnership looks like in this new era. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Oh, but one more thing before you go. If you're really interested to hear from the most extreme, we're ready to help you engage with the next generation of designers. We'd love to invite you to partner with us as part of ThinkLab's 2025 Gen Z cohort. It's a collective of up-and-coming Gen Z designers from across North America, acting as a research platform for uncovering essential generational insights. You can learn more about the Gen Z cohort and how to get involved linked in this episode's show notes or on ThinkLab's website. Design Nerds Anonymous is a proud member of the Surround Podcast Network. Special thanks to the production team, Hannah Vitti and Rachel Senator. Join the conversation on Design Nerds Anonymous. What have we missed? Are you doing something spectacular to lead the phygital revolution? If so, I want to personally invite you to call our hotline, share your thoughts, and who knows, you could be featured on social channels or possibly even a future podcast episode. Simply call our hotline at 917-934-2942 and make your voice heard.